Bill, you are welcome to start when you are ready. Or I guess the Mayor, Mayor Knapp, we are ready to go when you are, and you're welcome to start your opening remarks.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Tim Knapp, and I am the current mayor of Wilsonville for another few weeks. Some time ago, our Wilsonville City Council formally adopted our resolution number 2626, which declared Wilsonville as an inclusive city that has and will continue to welcome the collective contributions of all persons, honoring and respecting people of every race, color, national origin, immigration or refugee status, heritage, and culture. In the spirit of that resolution, we're pleased to host tonight's gathering, which is our first dedicated solely to the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI. All members of City Council will join us tonight and will soon be here. We have a couple still coming, as well as Mayor-elect Julie Fitzgerald, who will take over from me in January. Thank you all for being here. The city manager and his team are here, some Wilsonville Police Department representatives, Clackamas County Sheriff's Office representatives, and several city employees are here as well. We strive to make Wilsonville a great place to live and work for people of every age and at every stage of their lives. We also recognize that structural barriers and challenges to inclusion do exist, and we are committed to developing a long-term DEI plan for a more inclusive Wilsonville. Our desire tonight is to amplify the voices of residents whose voices are often underrepresented in local government. We want to hear directly from the community about your experiences in Wilsonville and solicit your ideas to create a more inclusive city. After you've had a chance to tell us what's on your mind, the council will conclude the evening with a few thoughts about what they have heard and reaffirm our commitment to create a more inclusive city. To complete this vital work effectively, we are relying on your stories to learn where change is needed. We look forward to this session identifying challenges and opportunities to work together toward inclusive outcomes. We know there are members of our community who are not in the room, and we ask you to invite people in your network who couldn't attend tonight to visit the website letstalkwilsonville.com/DEI to share their thoughts with us directly. Again, that website is letstalkwilsonville.com/DEI. Every perspective we hear informs our deliberate, long-term, and collaborative process to identify a clear vision and clear steps toward making everyone feel included in Wilsonville. To assist in this community-wide collaboration, we are joined tonight by DEI facilitator, Mr. Bill De La Cruz, who specializes in supporting communities who are seeking to become more inclusive. Some of you have met Bill already. He has been engaged in some informal conversations with our city staff, the police department, and several citizens who have already come forward committed to DEI work. Those conversations have helped shape tonight's agenda. With that, I'll be happy to turn it over to Bill to tell you about himself and about what to expect for tonight. Thank you all for attending and participating. We all look forward to listening and learning. Bill, good evening.
Thank you, Mayor Knapp. It's an honor to be here supporting this great work in the community. And before I start, I want to start with a land acknowledgement. And I want to start by saying we're gathered on the land of the Kalapuya, who today are represented by the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde and the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians, whose relationship with this land continues to this day. We offer gratitude for the land itself, for those who have stewarded it for generations, and for the opportunity to study, learn, work, and be in community on this land. We acknowledge that our community's history, like many others, is fundamentally tied to the first people in the Willamette Valley. Finally, we respect, acknowledge, and honor the past, present, and future as we now stand in the space of restoration. And I'm bringing that into our awareness because really what we're talking about tonight is how do we move forward in a spirit of restoring community, of restoring inclusion, and acknowledging the things that have happened in the past, in the historical past, and in the near past to folks who are on this call, to folks in our community who are not here. And my role is really to support the facilitation of this conversation. So I serve as a bridge in many communities between communities and organizations and the people who live and work in those spaces to really have conversations, because the impacts of what we're seeing with systemic racism and with division in our country is creating a challenging time for all of us. And so the fact that we're all here together says a lot about the commitment that you all have to this idea of creating a more inclusive Wilsonville. So just a few things before we get started. The meeting will be recorded. And we also have Spanish interpretation for those community members who choose to use that. And all you have to do is you can raise your Zoom hand, which is located in the attendees list or the chat list. There's a place to raise your hand and you can let Zoe know, and we will provide that support. And we're doing this as a way to begin this process of being inclusive, realizing that for some people, English is not their first language, and we want to be able to really honor that. And so I have a list of names. It went from 14 to 55. And so it's really exciting that we're going to be able to hear your voices. And I was going to just call on people as we go through the list. And if you're really ready to go, you can also raise your hand, and Zoe, who is with the city manager's office, will help me, and we'll just call folks out in terms of when it's your turn to talk. And so I just want to remind everybody that this is a work in progress, and we are all building this together. And it's important that we give each other a lot of grace as we develop and move through this conversation and create next steps. And I think in speaking with everyone on the city council, city manager's office, the community members that I've spoken to, everybody understands the urgency of this work. And I think that the important thing to remember is that we need to take our time and make sure we're making the right steps. So I'm going to stop a minute for Helen, because I think she just asked me to slow down.
Sí, esta reunión se está grabando y hay un intérprete para que los que quieran expresar sus comentarios en español lo puedan hacer. Por favor, levanten la mano, que está en la lista de chat, donde está levantar mano. Estamos recopilando sus comentarios en español para que este proceso sea inclusivo. Así que los que quieran hacer comentarios en español, sus comentarios se interpretarán al inglés. Este es un trabajo que estamos progresando en este camino, así que tenemos que tener un poco de comprensión unos con otros y vamos a seguir adelante. Queremos saber cuáles son los próximos pasos y ahora vamos a seguir adelante con los comentarios de Bill.
Great, and I want to acknowledge that Brian Cosgrove, the city manager, and Chief Werpace are also on this call, and I believe there's a representative from the sheriff's office who is also on this call, because there's very much interest from everyone in moving this work forward.
Y también hay otras personas acá en la llamada, está el sheriff y el administrador de la ciudad, porque están muy interesados en cómo seguir adelante con este trabajo.
So again, the process is being built as we go, and tonight is the first step. And as part of this listening process, the role for all of the elected officials tonight is really to just take in what you are saying as a community. And so we're not here to fix, to change, to justify, to make excuses, or to in any way minimize anyone's experience. We're really listening to understand and engage with each other as a community. And so a few things just to be aware of as we step into our conversations is to remember that we're not here to attack each other or to use personal names in our stories. We really want to understand the experiences that you've had with the processes or engaging in city services or some of the things that may have happened to you just being out in the community. And so really be aware of that in terms of the stories that you're sharing, because we're here to really look at the systems that exist that either support inclusion or create barriers to that level of engagement. So really be aware of any judgment that you might have that leads to blame or shame. Speak from your own experience. We really want to hear your story. So rather than talk globally, we really want to hear what you have experienced, and then we'll have about 2 or 3 minutes for each person. So just really be aware of the time you're spending, because there's now almost 60 people on the call. And I love this quote by Chief Luther Standingberry. He says, "It takes few words to speak the truth." And so just be as lean as you can, but don't cut yourself off for the stories that you have to share. I may ask some follow-up questions and I may not. We'll just see how that goes. And as a reminder, you can raise your hand, you can press Alt-Y and Alt-Y on your computer, and there'll be somebody monitoring the list as well. And we're going to spend about 30 to 40 minutes on each question. And it may not be enough time for everybody to have their voice in this conversation tonight. And if that's the case, I think Mayor Knapp listed, you can go to the website of Listen Wilsonville. And I've also created a survey that I think a link is on our website so that you can go there, and that's monitored by myself, and I'll just be compiling all of that data for people as well.
Muy bien, así que lo que no queremos es que haya ataques ni que se usen nombres personales. Queremos entender el proceso y lo que ha pasado. Así que queremos que hablemos de las cosas. No estamos acá para arreglar algo ni para cambiar nada, ni para justificar ni minimizar su experiencia, sino que queremos entender lo que le pasó a usted. Queremos entender cuál es el sistema, qué es lo que ha mejorado la inclusión o ha fomentado que haya barreras. No queremos tampoco que la gente pase vergüenza en este momento. Cada persona tiene 2 o 3 minutos para hablar de lo que tenga que decir, y hay 60 personas acá, así que por favor hable lo más brevemente posible, pero sin dejar de contar su historia. Levante la mano con el botón de levantar mano, pero también puede usar los botones Alt y la letra Y en su teclado, y va a haber una persona que monitorea la lista. Hay 30 a 40 minutos para cada pregunta. Si no llegamos a su pregunta, la puede dejar en el sitio web. Hay 2 sitios web para usarlo, y yo voy a estar monitoreando esos sitios web para poder revisar las preguntas después.
Great, thanks, Helen. So we are just going to jump right into our first question. And the first question is, tell us about your personal experiences in Wilsonville in the community or soliciting city services, and whether you felt a sense of inclusion and belonging or exclusion and othering. And I'm going to start, there's Jake Schwein from Grace Chapel. Jake, are you there?
Let me interpret the question
Oh,
first.
excuse me.
Así que un minuto. La primera pregunta es esta. Cuéntenos sus experiencias personales en Wilsonville, en la comunidad, o pidiendo servicios en la comunidad, en la ciudad, y se sintió incluido y que pertenecía, o excluido y que era otro. Así que empezaremos con las personas que llama Bill.
Gracias, Helen. Okay. Jake, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Great. Well, you're on.
Will you mention the question one more time? Sorry.
That's okay. Tell us about your personal experiences in Wilsonville in the community or soliciting city services, and whether you felt a sense of inclusion and belonging or exclusion and othering.
Yeah. So so personally, I've felt inclusion in the community. I'm Caucasian white, and I think that is a big part of it, to be honest. My daughter is from Rwanda, so she is Black, and we adopted her when she was 9. And so I have 2 experiences, one as being a citizen of Wilsonville since 2001, and then also when we brought our daughter home in 07 and on, as she went through the school system here in Wilsonville, and sort of as she grew up in a white home in a predominantly majority white community, and sort of her journey. So I have felt incredibly included. I'm a pastor at a local church. Been grateful for the city, been grateful for how even as the church we've been included, asked to be at the table for many different things. For the most part, have had an incredible experience as a citizen here in Wilsonville, whether I'm a pastor or whether just I'm a citizen myself. My daughter, as a father, I can't speak for her journey, that is her story, but as a father of a Black daughter, I think that I would say that our experience has been mixed. As my daughter has gotten older and has been able to communicate her experience in Wilsonville, obviously it was more difficult than we probably assumed as it was going on. So, you know, just different abilities and different, as people were asking questions and looking to her as sort of the, potentially the, you know, she would be the, you know, she's a Black girl in the classroom. And so things, they would just assume she would know things or experience things, or they would go to her for different thoughts and would sort of be already feeling on the outside. Experienced a couple things in Wilsonville at places of business where the assumption was she was not my daughter. And the experience that I had as I was being helped, as they were looking at my daughter, thinking that this Black young lady was too close to me. Like, why are you so close? And I had to say multiple times, like, this is my daughter. So, you know, those are my experiences in the city of Wilsonville. For the most part, they've been amazing and very, very included in many things. And I would just say I'm super grateful for this conversation. I'm grateful for this group of people that are tackling this, grateful for Garrett and the crew at Wilsonville Alliance Inclusion. And just as we're going down this road, I'm grateful that we're having this conversation. It's much needed. And so I just want to commend the city, Mayor Knapp, Mayor-elect Julie Fitzgerald, and the councilors, just their ability to go after this and to really want to see Wilsonville get better. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it. Michael, you have your hand up, so why don't you go ahead and jump on in. Are you there, Michael? Oh, there you are. We need to unmute Michael. Can you hear us? So I'm going to come back to you and I'll go to the Wake admin. I'm not sure who's there. We'll come back to Michael after that. There we go. Is that Garrett?
Yeah, can you hear me, Bill?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, excellent. Thanks so much, Bill and members of council here. Garrett Pryor, I'm one of the co-chairs of the Wilsonville Alliance for Inclusive Community. For this first question, I just wanted to bring I guess as a community organizer, some stories and voices that I've been hearing, 2 examples that really folks didn't feel comfortable tonight speaking. And so I'm just kind of passing on those words. I'm not trying to speak for them. I'm just kind of passing them on. So there's a grandmother who is who's Black and walks to pick up her kid at Meridian Middle School and has had the police called on her multiple times because people think that she is loitering out there, or and what I think struck me in listening to her was she just kind of had a very casual disappointment. It felt like it was a very just kind of resigned to this being the reality that she lives within, and that she pointed to previous experiences where things have been worse in different places, so she enjoys the safety of Wilsonville. But to me, from an inclusion standpoint, that was just kind of depressing to know that somebody is just to resign that they're going to have the cops called on them when they're a grandmother walking to pick up their grandchild from school. And then the other piece in working with folks who are trying to provide homeless services and housing, temporary housing within the community, they felt that there have been impediments in city laws and city government in different fees or other types of things to establish emergency housing or to just get through the permitting system, the land use system. They see that as a real encumbrance, and so that is a place where really today, if you're somebody who needs a home, you're going to spend the night in your car, and you're going to be traveling from one place to another or trying to find a location. So just wanted to pass on those 2 individual examples.
Great, thanks, Garrett. Mike, are you there yet? Mike, I think it's Munoz or Mayos.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, great.
Oh, thank you. I didn't even know, I didn't even raise my hand, so I didn't expect it. I'm sorry. And only now I heard my last name. But I just want to thank you all. I'm talking about our breath. I'm double taxing by working out at the same time, so I'm sorry about that. But I do really appreciate what all of you are doing here. I think this is a fantastic opportunity to connect with leadership on this incredibly important issue. And I just think that the community as a whole should really realize how great this is that you're putting this step forward. My experience here, my family's experience is that we've been here for about 4 years, and it's been a great community for us. We are a minority on the religious side. We're Jewish. And I have to say, overall, our experience here has been fantastic. It's been, anyone who knows us and knows that we're Jews, has been welcomed us in open arms. They're very curious about, if they didn't know about the Jewish religion, they want to know more about it. So it's just really nice to see. It's been a very welcoming, community that way. There are just, a couple of things that I just wanted to note. One is, and I definitely can recognize the challenges here, is that especially during this season where we see, all the holiday lights that are up, which is just beautiful. I think it would be really nice to recognize some of the other holidays that occur during this time and other times during the year. And it's not just the Jewish holidays, it's also Muslim holidays, Kwanzaa and the like. So I know that it could be difficult to do that, but it would be nice if there could be some other recognition for some other religions, that exist, not just in the neighborhood, but, in the region, if that would be possible. One area where we did see that there was some concern was in the schools. We have 3 kids in all 3 of the schools here in the public schools. And in the high school, my oldest daughter had experienced some form of anti-Semitism. The school definitely wants to address it. It's not an easy thing to do, but the way she's experienced it is it's really through symbols. Swastikas engraved in desks, on a Zoom call, someone having, a swastika, a Nazi flag, as a background. And, clearly this is difficult to tackle. It's not an easy issue, but I think a big part of it is education, and it also comes from the top down, from leadership, and recognizing that this could be an issue, and maybe working with the schools and figuring out and having some sort of education and awareness, build awareness to students that kind of behavior is just not acceptable and it's very hurtful. And it's not just, for anti-Semitism, it goes to any kind of behavior that's like that, that provide symbols, of hate. So that's really it. But overall, as I said, we think Wilsonville is a wonderful and beautiful community, and we just absolutely love them here. So thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Michael. So next I'm going to call on Pratima. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly.
Okay, great. So my name is actually pronounced Pratima, and so I have been very accustomed to mispronunciation of my name because I came to the U.S. as a very young child, and
correcting me, because I believe saying people's names correctly is important. So it might happen again in our time together. So just
sure, and just to put a little humor into it, being raised in the U.S., my siblings all mispronounce my name regularly. So we have our American accents to thank for that.
Well, I'm in good company.
Yeah. But I just want to say, I thought about the question, and I would like to share that, yes, I'm an immigrant raised in upstate New York, came to Oregon in 2002, and I married a Caucasian American. So we're a mixed race family. And we have a lot of experiences that are similar to other callers, where we have some differences in our skin color, differences in the religion that I practice at home, and have worked very hard through the last several decades to adjust and acclimate to this American culture and American society. And I test this each and every time I move to a new location. And so we became members of the Wilsonville community in 2004 when I became employed by Xerox and later by Microsoft. And we ourselves moved to Wilsonville in 2014. Our experiences have been at community events, at the library, in speaking with public safety, in speaking with people in the city council and at the city offices. They have all been positive. I'm very glad to say that we have been treated well, our questions answered, our concerns addressed for the face value of those concerns or experiences. And so it made it very easy for us to decide to move to Wilsonville back in 2014. And then it makes it very easy for us to consider this our 20-year plan. My friends know I jokingly talk about being parked in a great school district until our kids exit high school. And I appreciate that very much. I am thinking a lot about the emergence of Asian immigrants here in Wilsonville. We have a large population of Indian families, for example. I'm thinking a lot about how I can continue to share my interests in women's rights, STEM education, and the Indian culture. And I think this is a great community in which to do these things. And so I will say that ours has been a positive experience, and I'm very glad to hear about other experiences so that I know what else is being experienced, just so that we can all be part of the solution too.
Great, thank you very much. Great to hear your voice. Next, I see a hand up for Deborah. Let's see, I think there's only one Deborah, so.
Bill, let's go to Michael, and then we'll go to Deborah. I had accidentally not unmuted Michael. So let's go to Michael, and then we'll go to Deborah. Is that all right?
Oh, yeah. I thought Michael already went.
We have two Michaels.
Oh, okay, great. Let's go to Michael number 2 then. Oh, there I see Michael now. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, hello. I'm using my son's school computer. His name is Michael. Hi, everyone. I'm Leona. I'm so happy to be here in Wilsonville. You have no idea. It's my 4 children and I. We have been a part of Wilsonville's community since June. We're very, very grateful. So grateful. I have 4 different grades, or my children are in 4 different grades. What I experienced in Wilsonville is such wonderful support in both the Beckman Creek and the Meridian Junior High. They've given us everything we need for school, supplies and whatnot. I reached out personally to the ladies there, and I told them a little bit about our story. We came up from the Yucatan Peninsula down in Merida. We were there since 2017 in Mexico, and we had to get out of a very abusive situation. I have been married for 15 years, and I needed to, we needed to escape that situation. It's a domestic violence situation. So I do actually, I have a request to eventually get in contact with the police personally to explain everything. I don't want to get into it here. I just want to say that I'm so grateful, so grateful for this community. The busing system is fantastic. I can get anywhere, you know, using the bus, which is necessary. And in fact,
Oh, I think we lost you there. The wonders of
and
electronics.
making,
Oh,
okay,
there you are.
here we go. Okay. And making a few posts on Facebook. I'm not sure exactly how they're doing it, but we only had very few little things, and we were sleeping on air mattresses. And now we have a whole house full of furniture. I've received gift cards for the grocery store. I want to say that I want to name drop here. Nina Jules at DHS is fantastic. I got in contact with her through the Beckman Creek. The counselor at Beckman Creek, Julie, is wonderful, wonderful. She's been so great with my children and myself. So that's all I really want to say right now is that I'm so blessed and so grateful to be here. And I really, really appreciate everyone and their giving generosity and their spirit of inclusion in Wilsonville. So thank you to the mayor, Mr. Knapp, and everyone who works in this community. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Leona. Okay, Deborah, did you figure out how to unmute?
I think I did. Can you
Oh,
hear me?
good. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thanks for hosting this forum. And I'll just briefly say some experiences that I had. And this is about a decade ago now, but I've been in Wilsonville, I don't know, 17 years, I think. And about 10 years ago, I was part of a group of parents that were advocating to maintain a Spanish immersion program at Boones Ferry Primary School, if anyone remembers that. There was a beautiful, very successful program there that the superintendent at the time decided to cut. And my son was supposed to start in kindergarten. And so a bunch of us parents organized to try to keep the Spanish immersion program going at Boones Ferry at that time. And some of the comments that I heard that summer have stuck with me to this day. It was very disturbing. I had been in Wilsonville about 7 years already at that time, and there just really became abundantly clear to me that there was a pretty racist undercurrent. Some of the comments I heard were that, oh, they're on the right track in Arizona. You can't have this Spanish immersion here. You're creating a safe haven for those people here. Oh, what are we going to rename Wilsonville Road Cesar Chavez Boulevard? And things like that. Just like we were talking about Spanish immersion for kindergartners. And there was a really painful racism that I experienced at that time. Unfortunately, the program was cut. A new superintendent came in, started a new program at a different school. That's all water under the bridge, but what stuck with me was kind of some of the ugliness that rose out of this community during that time. So I just wanted to to make note that that is there, it exists. And I'm happy to be part of any anti-racism efforts. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Kat. Looks like you're, there you go.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Hi, yes, I have been a Wilsonville resident for 4 years. I moved here from the East Coast to be the pastor of one of Wilsonville's longest standing churches. I am no longer the pastor there, but one of the experiences I want to share is from my time there. My partner Jill joined me out here, also from the East Coast, about 3.5 years ago. And for the most part, we feel safe, and my interactions with city staff have been positive. I participated in the Citizens Academy shortly after I moved here. As a queer female pastor, I didn't feel included in the sort of clergy network of Wilsonville, which I think it just was a stark contrast to other communities where I have lived in, where there was outreach and inclusion for new clergy who came to the community. So that was something that felt lacking as the sole female pastor in town. And we had several incidences at the church of defacing property on our church sign, which is a place that has the rainbow flag, which communicates a welcome to LGBTQ people. And there was defacing and theft. There were 3 separate occasions, and that I did reach out to law enforcement, and I was a little disappointed after the 3rd incident because I had requested a face-to-face meeting in a spirit of really believing that everyone who works for our city genuinely cares about the health and safety of Wilsonville residents and community gathering places. And I said, with all that Wilsonville has to be proud of, I'm hoping that being a community that doesn't tolerate intimidation, defacing property, and interfering with messages of love and welcome for LGBTQ people is one of them. So I never got that, got to have that meeting. And just an extra comment about that is for people who are marginalized and in that situation where, you know, I chose not to really live in fear, but it was a little bit threatening and definitely intimidating. And so for the person who feels threatened and intimidated to have to do the extra repeated follow-up effort when they've reached out to request for something, I think is something that we should pay attention to.
So are you still interested in having that face-to-face?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. I think the folks that maybe you've reached out to, I don't know, are listening. And so that's something that could be possible, I'm sure.
I'm, as I said, no longer the pastor of that church. So in terms of, as it would relate to the property, you know, I wouldn't be the person to talk to about that. But in the general kind of conversation about creating a culture helping to create a culture where we say that we don't tolerate that kind of intimidation is definitely a conversation I'd like to be a part of.
Great, thank you. So we have about 55 people on the call and no one's hand is up. So I'm going to presume that most of you are on the call. Oh, there we go. That's all it took. Awesome. Okay. It just says Kay Green. So
Kate Greenfield.
Ready to go.
Kate Greenfield. Yeah, I'd just like to mention that a habit that I think some people have rather deeply ingrained within them. That's one of the things we need to work on as a community. I happen to know people who are Black and live in Wilsonville. And I'm very happy to see the wide variety of people who are hiking around our beautiful streets, keeping themselves healthy during this time. And I think in general, we treat each other well. But it is very common for my Black friends to experience phenomena like walking past a house and having the car door in the driveway locked, click, as they walk past the car. And to have the same kind of thing happen, say, in front of Safeway. I've heard specifically about that in that parking lot. Someone who's very nice, distinguished looking person with different skin color, and click, when they get out of their car, the person in the car next to them locks their car door. And I think as a community, this is one of the areas, these microaggressions, that I think all of us together need to work on that particular thing. I don't think most people in Wilsonville do that sort of thing, but it's something that a community can work on and create an environment where those sorts of things are seen not to be necessary. They're not necessary here. We have one of the safest places. You know, I'm an old lady. I walk around town at all hours and all that stuff, and I feel much safer than any other place I've ever lived, with the exception of where I grew up down in Netards, where I knew everybody in town. And I think that we need to make Wilsonville feel safe and comfortable for everyone who lives here.
Great, thank you very much. So we have another Michael with their hand up. I think you're able to talk now, Michael.
Yeah, it's me, Leona, again.
Oh, okay.
Hi, I just wanted to mention as well that my children are biracial. They are Hispanic and Caucasian. Two of my children look very, very Hispanic, and well, not very, but you know, you can tell that they might possibly be mixed race, and then two do not. But I just, again, I want to reiterate that the school system has met all of my children, and I have felt, and we go out to the store all the time and go here, there, and everywhere that I can go. I have felt nothing but inclusion from everyone that I've ever encountered in this community. So I'm very grateful, and perhaps things that have happened in the past have, perhaps there's a spirit of change, you know, and I just want to like promote that spirit of change within the community, that, you know, people are becoming more inclusive, and that I think that as a community, the nature of this meeting and this department is everything's headed in the right direction, and I just want to say thank you very much.
Great, you're welcome. Thanks for being here. So there's no hands up, so I want to really encourage you, if you're ready to speak, to go ahead, raise your hand. I see Aaron Woods, and then we'll go to Nicole. Hi, Aaron.
Hey.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. As a 24-year resident of this city and one of the few African Americans that are part of this city, I can say from my perspective, and also my interaction in the city, participating in a number of ways, that for me, it has been really an interesting and a really wonderful experience. People at City Hall have always been wonderful toward me from the beginning. Everyone has always been helpful and engaging. Early on, I'd say, or I shouldn't say early on, but maybe about 8 years after having lived here, I ran into in a situation where I was racially profiled. Actually, I've been racially profiled twice. And the situation in itself the first time didn't turn into anything, but it didn't feel good coming here or living here after 8 years to experience that. The second time, I was followed by a police car. They didn't stop me, but you knew that they were running your license plate. Once again, you know, as an African American, and it may be very difficult for someone who is not a person of color to understand about being racially profiled, but it's something you learn about as a kid growing up and to be very watchful for. So I just want to say from that perspective, in those two incidents, I've not had any situation recently from the police. However, I have gone into a merchant's shop and did not feel very comfortable, nor was I handled in the same manner as two other customers that were in there. I had to wait an inordinate amount of time to be waited on. And so needless to say, for me, I would not shop there anymore, nor would I encourage any people who may ask me about a particular merchant. And I do share this with people that I know. I know a fair amount of people in this town. So overall, my experience has been pretty good. That is the same for my wife as well. I think that we have good people in this town, and I believe that people want to do the right thing. And certainly what the city here is doing in having this meeting and this open engagement for individuals to talk, I think is wonderful. And I think this is a very good first step for us in moving forward.
Thanks, Aaron. I'm going to let Helen jump in and ask a question real quick, and then we'll go to Nicole.
Si hay alguien que quiera hacer un comentario en español, por favor, haga su comentario en español y yo se lo interpreto en inglés. If there's anybody who wants to make a comment in Spanish, please go ahead, make your comment in Spanish, and I will interpret that into English.
Thanks, Helen. Okay, Nicole.
Hi, everyone. I really appreciate this coordination and conversation, and for the people who have shared so far, thank you. I feel like this format can be a little intimidating, but I really appreciate this conversation. So my name is Nicole, and I've lived in Wilsonville for about 4 years, and I just wanted to share my experience with the city's board and committees. This was my first year serving on the Development Review Board, and that has been an awesome experience, and I've learned so much. But this conversation has me thinking about, you know, the influence that these boards have, and I haven't seen the demographics of our boards and committees, but I think that would be a great opportunity to have more diversity of people and thought, and so that we can build a community that is more welcoming and inclusive. And so that might be a good place to start hearing more different opinions and things like that. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Nicole. Ben.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, I just want to say thank you for having this diversity community meeting. And I want to say thank you to Mayor Knapp, as well as incoming Mayor Julie and all the council people. I've been a resident of Wilsonville since 1984. I moved here when I was 7 years old. And fortunately, being an immigrant, you move to where you have relatives. And I had an aunt and uncle that attended Linfield College, and they ended up buying 5 acres here and building a home. So this is where I moved to. And the population was 3,500 people. And I went from living in a socialist country where I had one white kid in my class who was my pediatrician's son, to being the only black kid in my class. And it was definitely a culture shift. I didn't have my mom with me because Ethiopia was not letting families out. Senator Mark Hatfield had to get involved to get my mom an exit visa, so it took her a year to come to the US. So for that first year, it was my aunt and my uncle, who also had 3 children in the school system, and fought for me to get me an interpreter, to make sure that you know, I was included in various programs. And I definitely did not understand about racism because Ethiopia was very diverse as well. There was different issues that were driving, you know, ethnic fracturization or fracturing there. But growing up in Wilsonville, I have seen, you know, and experienced various things, whether it's the Oregon Citizens Alliance that was headquartered here in Wilsonville and did ballot measure 9 and ballot measure 11, which my family hadn't talked about gay or lesbian issues before. And it wasn't until I was a freshman in high school and ballot measure 9 happened. And I remember telling my friends, I mean, we were mostly liberal Republicans. Our parents were liberal Republicans. And my friends were telling me that, you know, as a minority, I should be for ballot measure 9 because it's diluting my minority status. And I was explaining to them, no, as a minority, I have to stand with other minorities. And I said, you know, that's how things start out in fascist countries, is they start breaking up different minority groups and, you know, go at them one by one. So I remember wearing my No on 9 pin, and, you know, a year or two later, my No on 11 pin. I remember going to our principal with my best friend at the time. I think the principal was Clark Irwin at the time at Westland, suggesting a global leadership class, kind of to bring in knowledge about diversity, which was very common to me. And my best friend was Jewish and was very common to him. But the Wilsonville School District was not very diverse or inclusive. I mean, to the point where there was, you know, fights between the Latino population and the athlete population of Westland High School, I think like 3 years in a row. And I remember the vice principal at the time ended up having an assembly where he brought in all the minorities and all of the people on the various sports teams. And, you know, I mentioned that we had met with Clark Irwin and suggested that class. And he said, you know, come see me after this. And he actually initiated it. And we ended up having a class called Global Leadership, where it was for seniors and juniors in lieu of Global Studies 12. And it was supposed to be kind of like a diversity and cultural learning class. We went to various workshops, but then we also went and spoke with classes. And since the Global Leadership class was made up of senior and junior students, it was kind of, you know, and people very diverse, people on the football team, people on, you know, in various groups. So it was kind of an open dialogue where we had a panel and people, you know, students could ask questions of the panel and then people on the panel could answer. And it was a very, you know, emotional class. I did it for one term and it was wonderful. I thoroughly enjoyed it. People, you know, still mention it to me to this day. I'm not sure exactly what happened to it, but you know, what Wilsonville, considering how conservative it was when I first moved here, is pretty open, pretty. I mean, it's rare that I notice anything. I do notice the microaggressions that one of our former speakers was talking about, but I don't associate that with race. I just associate that with, I mean, there were a lot of break-ins in cars, so I just assume that it's people, you know, protecting their property or feeling anxious or nervous. And as far as profiling, it does happen from time to time, but I think the last time I was pulled over was maybe 5 years ago, and it was when I was getting off the freeway. And I made that conscious decision. I was in front of the city hall because I live a block away from the city hall. And I thought about it, do I park in a parking lot? And I said, no, I'm going to park on the street just in case, you know, something weird happens, you know. I wanted to be in broad daylight. And there's again, because I had my family, I had that sense of, you know, people advocating for me. I can't imagine what it would be like for, you know, some of the people that we heard from tonight that are coming here and maybe don't have, you know, that sense of community support. And I'm very eager to find out about other diversity committees or groups that there are, so I could maybe, you know, lend a hand as well. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Ben. So we're gonna take one more speaker on this topic. We'll take two more, the two people that had their hands up, and then we'll switch to our next question, and I get to practice this name again. So Pratima, it's your turn again. I see your hand up. Hopefully I got a little closer that time.
Okay, thank you. I was thinking a lot about what different people have said, and I want to make an observation, and that is the impact that our business leaders have had on our lives. And I've worked only for large corporations, and I've frequently given my business to small business owners. And there has been very good experiences at both ends. So for example, my current employer has gifted all of us with a cash donation at the start of the year to do whatever we wanted in light of COVID. And my husband and I decided to turn around and split those funds to two small business owners, restaurant owners, Slick's Barbecue and Thai Delight. And we did this because we felt very welcome by these businesses. And I noticed that in Wilsonville, we have small businesses set up by people of all different backgrounds and races. And we are really appreciative for their hard work and efforts and how they have welcomed us into their restaurants or locations. We've taken great joy in supporting those businesses, not only in Wilsonville, but in nearby towns as well. So I think it's important to bring our business leaders into this discussion so that they know that we want to support them and we want to feel welcome when we step through their doors. And then with the large corporations, I mentioned earlier that I worked for two. Those two happened to be in Wilsonville, and they were supportive of community events, whether it's asking us to match our donation hours or give funds for the community or set up a table like the Dolly Parton Imagination Table, supported by Xerox for many years. So I think bringing the business leaders will be key, and then letting them know about the varied experiences. Mine were good, yes, but I worry about my children because they are going to be received differently and perceived differently. I'm perceived as an immigrant and they are perceived as children of color. So there will be differences in our experiences that I want to ensure will be positive and fruitful for each of them. The last thing I want to say is I heard a voice of a former colleague earlier, and I want to just say to you that you inspired me when we were colleagues, and hearing your voice tonight continues to inspire me. And so when I hear your voice and I hear voices of others who are different, I feel more emboldened to speak up and speak out and embrace these positive actions. So thank you for doing that.
Great, thanks for your comments. Aaron Woods, last comment on this question, and then we'll jump into our next question.
Yeah, I'm going to make this real quick here because I wanted to just address this more so toward Nicole, but anyone else who does not know my background with this city. I too was a graduate of the Citizens Academy. Matter of fact, I went to the second class for the Citizens Academy. And as an African American, I was very well received. But also I spent 2 terms, 6 years on DRBB, and was very happy with everything that not only I learned, but the things that I contributed there. And lastly, currently in January, I was appointed to the Planning Commission. So there are some people, or I should say a person of color here that a lot of people know, but more so from the standpoint of the city. If the city was not the way that they are, I know that I would not have been appointed or asked to be on any of the commissions and also the committee that I was on with DRB. So I just wanted to make that quick comment. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. So the next question, somebody asked, are there other discussion prompts? So we're going to switch into the next one. And that is, what are the steps that the city can take to any of the issues brought forward this evening, or anything else that wasn't brought forward that you believe the city needs to look at in terms of this lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and creating a more inclusive Wilsonville? And I'm going to let Helen just repeat that question as well.
¿Qué pasos puede dar la ciudad para resolver los asuntos que se presentaron esta noche en temas de diversidad, equidad e inclusión?
Great. So what are the steps the city can take to address the issues brought forward this evening or other things? And again, if you're ready to jump in, just raise your hand. I don't see anyone's hand up yet. We'll give it a Zoom minute of wait time and love to hear your ideas on this. Okay, great. We have a few folks. So let's start with Imran. Please go ahead. Nice to see you again.
Hey, it's Imran, just so everybody knows.
Thank you.
But no, you're good.
All right, I go with the correction, so I'm good.
No, you're fine, Bill. It's great to be a part of this discussion, and the people that we've already had meetings leading up to this probably are getting annoyed with my redundancy, but I will do my best to keep it fresh and sort of disguised in different pattern. But basically, I think what I've shared with Bill before and some other people that participated in the meetings leading up was, I think Wilsonville, first of all, is doing some really cool things as far as a suburban community in an 89% dominated Caucasian state where, it's a majority rules type of society we live in. So inclusivity is about that 1 out of 10 persons that do they feel good? Do they feel like they're being heard? Do they feel like they fit in? And I think inclusivity, the next step that the city can take is try to figure out what creates inclusivity for like some of the people that have I've just been listening to the first round of feedback. Like, what does a 16-year-old, what does it take for a 16-year-old to feel inclusive, in the classroom? And do teachers and staff need to understand that when you're talking about slavery, you don't call them a black person in the room? It's ridiculous. And, I've felt that when you're talking about a Muslim thing and everybody looks at me and says, what do you think, Imran? And it's like, I don't advertise my religion outright with people. And so it's kind of a situation where we have to use tact and we have to understand that being inclusive, I just want to be a person, and at the same time, if we're trying to create, if you want my eyes to get bright, then yeah, I think somebody mentioned like decor, and I think it was Michael earlier in the call mentioned being Jewish, and yeah, let's see a Jewish star somewhere on City Hall on the side of the building. I see Santa Claus when I drive by the Welcome to Wilsonville sign, and he's great. He's awesome. He's a giving kind of guy. And that makes me feel good inside to see that for the holidays. But let's see, some other symbols that represent people from different backgrounds. And I think what can the city do? It's definitely going to be, there's many chapters of that book. So my response is let's try to hear, which is what we're doing right now, which is great. But on top of that, let's make an effort to, like, I know there's this resolution 2626, but it's like, we can talk, but are we walking the walk? We can talk all day that we're inclusive. Who cares? Say it all day. Like, walk a mile in the shoes of Aaron Woods and see what it feels like to go into a jewelry store or wherever you go and be ignored. And I've been there. I've been in, I wear sweatpants most of the time. And if people see me out and about, I'm wearing sweatpants, I'm in tennis shoes, and I get treated different when I go into different restaurants and stores. I do. And I don't know that everybody in this call that can have that same experience. So there's ways that we can hear people's voices to create understanding of how do we walk the walk? Do we try to reach out to businesses and help business owners understand everybody from different backgrounds has a right to be a good valued customer? And, you know, there's so many different levels of this. So I think the first step is listening, which is great. I think symbols and effort of inclusion are another, because visual representation of backgrounds is just, it's underutilized in society for people that just say, for example, don't celebrate Christmas. Like if you don't celebrate Christmas, you're not seeing anything in December. So now I'll just leave it at that, because I think I exceeded my 3 minutes. But thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments. Jeff, you're up next.
Hi, thanks. My name's Jeff Rubin. I've been a Wilsonville resident for almost 20 years now. I've been working on these issues with a couple of other organizations just that I belong to. I'm hardly a consultant. I'm certainly not an expert, but you know, there seem to be some common themes. And the first would be that in terms of what the city can do is don't treat this like a one-off. And I'm not suggesting that that's what you had in mind, but this isn't event driven. It's an extensive process. I mean, you all know you don't build trust by trust building missions. It's a long process. It's a lot easier to lose than to gain. And it means that you have to rethink your own assumptions, your policies. I don't remember if it was Councilor Linville or Mayor-elect Fitzgerald who had said earlier on that I don't think that this happens too often in Wilsonville. It's like, I have no idea whether stuff does or doesn't. My guess is it happens more than you think it does. When a previous commenter, you know, basically said things have been okay because only been followed by police or stopped once or twice and only been treated poorly in a store once or twice. That's still unacceptable. So start at the baseline. If you want to make your process more inclusive, not just more diverse, look at how you do nominations and awards. Look at what the prerequisites are and where you get your referrals for. You know, simple stuff like when you're going to schedule events, use broad calendars as opposed to just the ones that show Christian holidays or major Jewish holidays, etc. You know, it may not matter to most folks, but it's a useful gesture, and it also gives you a better sense of what is going on in other people's lives. I mean, I don't think there's a magic answer, but to me, the top item is just maintaining a long-term sense of commitment and putting policy to that practice. As for the public sector, policy is what drives things. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. Let's see, I think Michael, and that may be Leona, up next, or it might be Michael.
Yes, hi, it's Leona again.
Okay, great.
Yes, I have a suggestion for inclusivity. PSAs, public service announcements, you know, or some, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yep. The screen froze, so I wasn't sure.
Okay,
so PSAs, you know, public service announcements. I have the Boone's Ferry Messenger. I read that. I'm a new resident, so that is a really great thing to have. I think, you know, articles and just getting the word out there that we are a community that is inclusive will help to change public perception on a sociological perspective. I spent the last 3 years down there in the Yucatan earning a Bachelor of Science degree in criminology and criminal justice. But a lot of that has to do with sociology. So, and, you know, so basically it's just about public perception and education and just putting forth the right energy out there. So I was a little too shy to join the group that was forming about the volunteering with the city planning. I can't remember what it's called, So this is my actual first public meeting in Wilsonville, but those are my ideas. We can change the tide by just moving forward, I believe. So with education and public service announcements and literature, things of that nature.
Great, thank you, Leona. We have a couple more hands up, and again, if you're ready to offer some ideas, go ahead and put your hand up. So we're going to go to Jay. If you're ready to go, Jay.
Actually, this is Cassandra, his wife.
Okay, hi,
Cassandra Edwards. Good evening, everyone. So one of the ideas that I have, and it's actually the main idea that I have, in terms of what we can do to promote inclusivity in our community, I kind of liken my thought to what happens in corporate America. I work for a company where the CEO, the leadership, communicates the message often. It's a part of who they are, around inclusion and caring for people and being sensitive to people's diverse backgrounds, doing everything that they can to create an atmosphere that makes people feel included and cared for. That is something that they do on a daily basis. So it's not just a couple of times a year, it's every day. It's the messaging that they send out to employees every day. And our CEO, who is an incredible human being, it's just who he is, you can really tell that that's a part of who he is, and he's brought that to the company and how he leads the company. I'm not naive to think that the company that I work for, which is a great company, it's not perfect, and not everyone believes and is committed to the message and the beliefs that he has and how people should treat each other. There are people I know for sure that have a different belief system and a value system. And there are people in this community that have different values than what we're talking about as a community here. And you won't change that. You won't change their heart, but what you do want to change is behaviors. And so what is happening at my company is that the messaging, because it's so positive and so strong, that what it's doing is it's quieting the haters, so to speak. That sounds kind of not nice, but that's what you want. You don't want people communicating hate. So if you can't change hearts, what you can do is quiet the hate. And so some of the comments that I've heard earlier about some of the negative experiences that people have or have had, it's troubling that people feel comfortable to speak hate or say things that are extremely racist. We should be living in a community where it makes it very uncomfortable for people to say hateful or racist things, that it's frowned upon to do it. And that should be in the minds of the people who don't share the values of love and caring and respect and just decency that they want to emit in a community. And so my suggestion is kind of like what the previous speaker talked about. There should be constant communication from the city leadership, from the police department, that says we are a community that cares about everybody. And it should be daily. It should be how we do business as a community. It shouldn't be special days, certain events. It's every day. And when people see that, when they constantly get that messaging, it changes behaviors. And for the people who believe in it, it will cause people who are kind of hiding in the shadows, because I know that there are people in this community that are hiding in the shadows because of fear of the reaction that they may get if they come out, if you will, that will cause people to not become fearful of wanting to engage in the community the way residents of a community should. And so again, my suggestion would be for the city council is to think of ways of how you can, on an ongoing basis, communicate inclusivity. There could be some activities that you do on a regular basis that demonstrates this is who we are as a city council. We are leaders who believe in including everyone in the community. And I think it starts there. The leadership in any institution, any organization sets the tone for how people behave. That's it. So I'm calling on the city council members and the mayor, current and mayor-elect, to think about how you can do that and bring all of the citizens and residents of this community along. Quiet the haters, make it very uncomfortable for anyone to do anything that is racist, discriminatory, or non-inclusive, and just create a better community for everyone where every individual in this community will not be afraid to come out and engage in a way that we would like to see it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Cassandra. Appreciate it. Garrett.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I think to me, in its most simple form, that the solution should match the degree of the problem. And so in kind of analyzing some of the gaps that we have, they're individual, relational, systemic, and institutional challenges. And so I think what we heard from a couple of the previous speakers were on the things we could do to address the individual and relational level. But when we get to what Jeff said, putting policy into practice, we really need to have specific measures and issues called out to change the systems and institutions in our community. And like Imran said before, are we walking the walk? Because what I found in, now moving to the Northwest and in predominantly white, liberal, and upper income communities and areas, we have a very, we like to do a lot of talking and can use the language of equity, but are very hesitant or find ways to delay, or the right people aren't in the room, or that type of thing, to actually put down specific measures or actions we're going to look to change. And I think that's where, when you all passed the Equitable Housing Strategic Plan, when I was talking to the Chamber and the Home Builders Association, one of the common threads where we were able to kind of build that coalition with the Wilsonville Alliance was the agreement that equity should be defined, and that we should just not use it just as a label to put on to whatever process that we were doing. So I would express those things. If we do come up with a task force or a commission that comes out of this, that at the outset of that commission, it should have clear issues and measures, and not be a process where we're just a process to just talk about more process, if you get what I mean.
Yes, I've been involved in some of those conversations. So
yeah.
Thank you.
You're with
very
me,
much.
Bill. Yeah.
Andrew, go ahead.
Hi, yes, thank you. There's a lot of philosophical stuff being discussed, so I wanted to try to jump into maybe some concrete actions that could be taken. One of the things that I hear a lot around improving the presence of different voices at community level is there are lots of people out there who are ready to get hired or ready to get brought in and invited to speak at a public event, or to be a consultant, or even those who are out there writing, they're working on their own projects, but they might be happy to have their work distributed by the Wilsonville City Council. At the beginning, you recognize Native American land here. There's a gentleman by the name of David Lewis who runs a Facebook page focusing on Kalapuya and or Greater Oregon Native American history issues. And I think it would be awesome if Wilsonville City reached out to him and maybe brought his voice in or some of his writings in and chose to highlight that. One thing that worked really well this past year, I think, was the Real Action community event, Trey Hester's Raise Conversations. I was able to go to one of those, and I thought that was really good. I thought that was exactly the kind of conversations that our community should be having. And I think that the city would do well to look for opportunities to facilitate those, maybe in more neighborhoods, maybe with different people in kind of the hosting or maybe the facilitating position. But the communities need to be having these conversations on the neighborhood level. And this is a lot of, talking and, conversational type activity, but maybe there's also some doing activity. For example, if you're going to have diverse holidays on the calendar, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, I believe Imran was talking earlier about Eid, or that may have been a different meeting, but what the city could be doing to highlight those events is soliciting art, poetry, essays, asking members of the community who these holidays are important to provide their voices to these holidays. And so these are people in Wilsonville who these events and days are important to. If we're having a MLK Day announcement from the city, or a similar, ethnic or politically important, or maybe like a civil rights holiday, we should be not just the majority culture or whatever we want to call this non-inclusive environment that we're attempting to improve. Acknowledging that presence, we should be using that to bring those voices forward. So that's kind of my idea, is find ways to put it into practice as clumsily and as awkwardly as we can, but to start doing that. I know we had a art like what's culturally important to Wilsonville survey go around, and I was happy to see that Grand Ronde Tribal Council was involved with that. I think that was excellent. Do more activities like that. And Grand Ronde Tribal Council, I don't know if they're involved with Graham Oaks, but I bet that they should at least have an opportunity to be, if they're not already. Things like that. Actually connect people to activities. I think that would be good. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Andrew. PK. Are you there? Yep, can hear you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to participate in this discussion on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I've lived in Wilsonville for about 24 years, a little over 24 years. And I'm an Indian, as an East Indian, so Indian American. And this subject is of great interest to me because of all the challenges we face today in our society and all the matters of conscience that have come up in the time of COVID-19, So one thing that the city could do potentially that would strengthen this DEI initiative is to share the emails that you have collected of all the people who are talking today and are participating in this conversation. And I say this because, when I served on the Wilsonville Arts and Culture Council and also the Arts, Culture, and Heritage group, the commission, I guess, of a sort, what I found was that many of us don't know each other. So an opportunity to talk to each other, to find each other after these events would be useful. And the city is in a position to share this information to the extent that people are willing to share that knowledge with each other. So that's my 2 cents for how we might be able to continue this conversation later, after this meeting.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Heather, please go ahead.
I wanted to talk a little bit about, living in Wilsonville is one of the highest socioeconomic status neighborhoods I have ever lived in. And I have some concerns about the criminalization of low socioeconomic folk and people with mental health issues. I know that we have done some things to try and integrate them into the community, but I worry about the ideas that people who live in Wilsonville kind of hold about what kind of life they should be able to live outside the touch of people who are different from them, particularly around ableism and classism. And so I know that Wilsonville has been doing work, and I don't know that much about it, around equitable housing, but I hear a lot of classist remarks and criminalization of people who don't own homes, who live in apartments, who hang out at the skate park, a lot of stereotypical kinds of ideas, with people believing that because they are of a certain class status, they are beholden to a particular lifestyle and set of norms. I also find that around mental health a lot in the community and neighborhood that I live in. And I would really like to see policies that continue to address this inequitability around class and the way that people construct people as a result of that. And I think by making sure that we, continue to bring a diversification of people and their money-making abilities, as well as their socioeconomic status into the community, is really important. And then the other thing I would suggest is that our police continue. I know that all police in the state have to go through training about how to deal with people with mental health, but I would just suggest that in Wilsonville that we continue to do work around that. As a person who had an interaction with the police around kind of an emotional thing for me, it was pretty bad. And I thought that they could have done a lot better in the treatment of the crisis that I was in at the time. And then again, I know in Billabong that we have particular communities that have been integrated, and I would like to see more of an education stream around the importance of having an ableistic, diverse community as well. So I think more training in that area for police, and I think just as up on our lens, what we do around the criminalization of people who don't make as much money and have some mental health issues, I think is really important. And I would ask that you as community leaders kind of keep that on the table.
Great, Heather. Thank you so much. Aaron. Go ahead when you're ready, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. One of the things that I've been thinking about since I've been participating in the group that has moved, or we have moved up to this evening, is something called a learning city. And I would encourage that Wilsonville look at that, so that we are actually driven by principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that our policies and also our practices really foster that. Specifically when we look at what a learning city is and can do, we look at the resources that we have within our city, which is pretty vast. And that's across the board in every sector. And it's important that when we do that, that the city then supports what I call individual empowerment and, of course, the social inclusion piece of that. There are a number of ways that and I won't get into the tactical pieces of that we can do, what we can do, but we've heard some of them already. You know, people gather together around food. That's a connector, a major connector. The holiday piece, which you've heard, is another one where others can learn about other people's background and what have you. So I would encourage the city to start to look at becoming a learning city and what all of that encompasses. I think that with everything that we're hearing this evening, that if we really look at what would foster, I'll say, a culture of this learning that I'm talking about in being a learning city, that this will become a part of the city and become ingrained, and it will be a normal process. So the learning city piece, which definitely supports the diversity, equity, inclusion, I'd like to see and encourage the city to really start to look at that.
Yeah, that's great. I actually just pulled it up as you were talking, and it says a learning city is one that effectively mobilizes its resources in every sector to promote inclusive learning from basic to higher ed, revitalizes learning in family and communities, facilitates learning for and in the workplace, and fosters a culture of learning throughout life. So I think you're right on with that one. Great, thank you. And Leticia.
Good evening. I guess in some of our previous conversations, we've talked about this, but I feel strongly that we need multiple opportunities for community members to share their experiences, both positive, which we've heard many positive experiences, but also negative experiences and in the different ways that they interact, and that there is a task force that has been equipped to help support community, identify issues that are happening in the community, and then maybe support and help maybe identify resources for those folks that are experiencing it. You know, thinking back about a recent blog that I heard about, you know, how people view members of my Latinx community and our role in Wilsonville. I know that there are a lot of residents who are not happy about the growth of the Latinx population here in Wilsonville. And some of the previous speakers said, you know, immigrant status versus person of color status, that there really are different perspectives on minorities in this community. And also that we're being strategic working with schools. So I just would like to ask that the city has a formal process to collect this information regularly, that this is not just one conversation, but that there are continual cycles to kind of look at these experiences, because they're happening at businesses, they're happening in places of worship, they're happening in our schools. And I'm really excited to hear so many positive things, but I can tell you that we got a very small slice of the pie this evening, so to speak.
Great, thank you. Kat, go ahead and jump in when you're ready.
Hi, thank you. I've been looking into the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond for over 40 years. They've been doing their kind of trademark Undoing Racism workshop, which is a 2.5-day intensive experience for usually between 20 to 22 people in a community. And it's very effective when you have you know, folks from like the city council and law enforcement and school board, people who are sort of leaders in institutions participate, as well as you know, community members or people who are engaging in some of the inclusivity work. In the pandemic time, that sort of intensive workshop experience is sort of on hold, but they have an appetizer version of it. And what I think is significant about something like that is that it brings us deeper into, it's common to I think want to just move forward from the present moment, from the surface place, and with a sort of attitude of looking at the differences that maybe haven't been included or well represented, and how can we look at them more and listen to them more, and with an absence of examination about how our white supremacist and white dominant culture has formed us in ways that we are completely unaware of. And we perpetuate those characteristics of that white supremacist culture in the way that we communicate, in the way that we lead, in the way that we relate, in the way that we plan, in the way that we make assumptions about what we're entitled to. And I think, it's really detrimental to not include that examination work and to have a shared analysis. I think the work that we want to do, we can get further in a more sincere and real measurable way if we're also doing that work. And so that's just one resource that I'm hoping to introduce to the community. I know that there are others available. I'm participating in something called, it's like a 9-month commitment, Reckoning with Oregon's Racist History, or we just short term it as Reckoning with Racism. And it's a commitment that that cohorts of faith communities from across the entire state of Oregon are participating in together. We just finished our first trimester. And some of that first trimester work was all land acknowledgement work, like doing the research. And it's, there's a lot of humility in the process, and there's a lot of, it's difficult work in the deconstruction. But I think a commitment to that analysis about white dominant culture goes hand in hand with recognizing and celebrating other cultures, acknowledging that that is a particular culture too that needs to be looked at.
Great, thank you very much. And I don't see anyone else's hand up, and we have about 20 minutes left. So, oh, one more, two more, three more. Okay, I'm gonna ask you all if you could do maybe just a quick 2 or 3 minutes each, then we're gonna shift over to the City Council's final thoughts as we close. So Pratima, please go ahead.
You're getting better, Bill. Better and better each time. I love it. So many of you have taken some of my great ideas. So you beat me to the punch, and I'm so glad to know that I'm aligned with many of you in our thinking. And the two thoughts that popped into my head while listening to all of you are, what has enabled me to feel included in any community? And I think back very fondly to my time in New York and our celebrations of different cultures and communities. So that to me is a wonderfully public way to share our heritages with one another. So this is something that I think the city can certainly engage in, and I will include Diwali, by the way, as one of those holidays to be celebrated. The other thing I was thinking about are, what are companies doing? What are our companies and corporations telling us about diversity, equity, and inclusion? And that's, to me, separate from the advocacy organizations, because the advocacy organizations were already committed. You know, I go to my Society of Women Engineers, we're committed to women's rights. I go to Saturday Academy, we're committed to STEM education in underrepresented groups. But at the company level, at the business level, they are making a plan and an initiative that then gets shared with everybody, not just those who are committed, but to those who aren't necessarily having this on their radar. And so I would look for the city to find those tactical activities, that word was used earlier, which provide the most exposure to these things, not just in these kinds of forums. Well, those of us who already care are present. We want to get to those who aren't thinking about this already. So that's my suggestion. Look for those opportunities where you're addressing broader groups of people who don't already engage in these discussions.
Great, thank you. I think we have Leona and then one more person, and then we'll switch over to City Council remarks.
Yes, hi again. Hello. I'm just kind of leaving my phone number here in chat because I would like the Sheriff's Department to be able to contact me if that's at all possible. Would that be okay for me to leave my phone number here?
Sure. Chief Forbes, do you want to speak to that?
Absolutely. I tried sending you a text with my email so we could connect. I'm happy to connect. So if you have some contact info, I'll be sure to follow up.
Okay, perfect. Give me a second here. I've got that. I'm just
Great.
entering it in now. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, last speaker is just a number, 561-553. You want to jump in and introduce
Is that
yourself?
me?
Yep, that's you.
Okay, I'm Susan Reap, and I came in late on this discussion, and so I don't feel, like I should say very much because I don't know what's transpired so far. But one thought did come to mind as I was listening to the people who said, talking and meeting and everything is one thing, but carrying it then out to the further steps. And it just made me think of something that seems maybe almost too simple. But a lot of people, not only kids in school, but I think in the workplace and otherwise, hear pejoratives a lot, or hear jokes that are not, that make them uncomfortable, but they don't know how to react. It takes a certain amount of bravery to say, excuse me, but that I think that's very offensive because, and so maybe part of inclusivity is some kind of way to I don't know, train people, workshop, something to let people know this is how you respond when you hear something that makes you uncomfortable. And, it takes some personal courage, but I think that could be a problem and could also be a part of a solution.
Great, thank you. Okay, I don't see anyone else's hand up. So we're about 15, 16 minutes away from closing out. So I'm going to remind everybody that we have other links, and maybe Bill Evans, if you could put the link for the Let's Talk Wilsonville, and if you have the link for the Survey Monkey, maybe you can put that in the chat. So there's other opportunities for folks to be able to have their voices heard. And Mayor Knapp, I'm going to switch over now to the council for any. This was just an opportunity for you all to kind of share what you've heard, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, the commitment to this work. And I'll just let you go ahead and run that piece, Mayor Knapp.
Okay, thank you very much, Bill. Appreciate the lead here tonight. I wanted to give everybody a chance just to make a couple of brief comments if we could, and it doesn't have to be something fancy prepared, but just maybe your impressions of what we've heard tonight and perspective on what it makes you think about the future. I wondered if Council President Agrawal would be willing to lead that off. This was not prearranged, so I don't mean to put you too much on the spot.
That's fine, thank you. I guess first, just thank you so much to everyone for participating in this event this evening. And, I believe that every community member deserves to thrive and feel belonging in Wilsonville. And I'm encouraged to hear that belief shared by so many this evening. I think that you all will help bring us closer to that value as reality. And so thank you so much. You know, I think I have a lot to reflect on from the comments shared this evening, but right now, to share my personal position or commitment, I think first I have to recognize that my position as a white woman, able-bodied person, a cisgendered person, that I have a different set of privileges than some in our community may. And some of these privileges I may be aware of, and some I might not see. And there may be some barriers that others face that I may not be aware of. And if I don't see them, my ability to remove them is hindered. So I know that I have to listen at every opportunity. And I understand that this is ongoing work. This is not just this evening. I know that I will need to continue doing this learning now and going into the future as well. Actions I think that I've done to continue in this learning in the last few months include attending the Clackamas County listening session to hear about experiences in our county more broadly. I attended the race event held in Villebois, the Real Action Community event. I appreciated the community engagement in putting on that event. I also attended Clackamas Workforce Partners, their town hall on diversity and inclusion. And I attended multiple workshops on DEI at the League of Oregon Cities conference this last month. I attended a workshop on the book, The Color of Law, which I very much appreciated that information. And it's looking at how government contributed to the segregation of America with housing policies. And I will continue to try and learn, and I will continue to show up because this work and this is important to me. And I think all of this will be wrapped in with the information gained tonight and shared tonight as we work together as a community to lead towards a future where respect and care and dignity for all people is held as a common value. I just really want to show my appreciation to everyone's generosity in sharing your stories tonight and in participating. And I recognize that it may be hard for people to speak up, and these are difficult conversations. So I'm so grateful to hear from people in Wilsonville about your experiences and also your vision for our future. That's all for my comments tonight, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Councilor Linville, would you have a couple of words for us, maybe?
Yes, and I also want to thank everyone who participated, whether you were a speaker this evening or if you just were here to listen as we were, or to also share in spirit your concerns of what we hope will be a beginning step to improving our entire city as a place for equitable and safe and caring community. I want to share just a little bit about myself. I know that sometimes just because of our own biases, we make assumptions about people and where they have come from and the experiences that they have had. And I just wanted to share a little bit about me in that I was raised in a home where My mother was a single parent. There were 4 children in the home. I'm the only person in my family that went to college and graduated from college. I have 3 other siblings, and they made some attempts, but it never happened. I come from working in an environment where, as a nurse, being able to care for people from a variety of backgrounds and beliefs is critical to health and regaining health. And I have taught multicultural nursing concepts courses as well. And then as a chief student affairs officer in a community college where we deal with primarily students who come from very diverse backgrounds. I have both initiated and supported those organizational structures to put in place supports for student success for all students. And in addition to that, I spent 10 years at a Hispanic serving institution, both as in charge of student affairs as well as academic affairs, and lived in a community that where I was not the majority population, and really came to appreciate being in that very, very diverse environment. What I heard this evening, I think, in addition to some of the work that I have done, and I've done quite a bit of work, but I recognize that I carry the biases that are both implicit and some that are explicit, and those I have taken many years trying to address and understand. But I want you to know that I certainly share a lot of concerns about where our bias comes from, how it impacts us, and in even unconscious ways. I heard some really wonderful things this evening. I heard some good experiences, and I heard some experiences that I am not surprised to hear about racial profiling, some treatment of students in the schools, and treatment in some of our businesses. And I was very, and continue to be concerned, as we've discussed this and brought it up in council from the beginning, of people being fearful for their children in our community. And that is something that I think we just cannot leave. And as one of our speakers said tonight, this cannot be a one-off. It cannot be just something that we look at and do this evening. But this has been a great place to step off. And I really appreciate that we've been given some good ideas about where the city can go in terms of looking at people who serve on our boards and commissions, using our public communication systems, and we have a variety of those. And I was even looking at our city council mission statement and wondering if that wasn't someplace we could begin to look again. But so I think I want to just communicate that as being a leader in our city government, that I have a commitment to this in the long term, to our community, for everyone that's in the community in terms of their being cared for, respected, and included. So thank you very much for your time this evening. And thank you, Bill, for facilitating this.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Linville. Councillor West, would you like to say a couple of words? We're running kind of short of time. I don't know if we can go over a few minutes or if that's a problem.
Well, that's up to you, Mayor. So I'm here for you.
All right, Councillor West, would you like to comment?
We'll be brief. Thank you, everyone who has logged on and taken time tonight, a lot of us after work, to sit in and listen. I appreciate you for engaging in your community in this manner and to allowing us to hear from you and your experiences and your ideas. I hope that we can continue to not only bring a diversity of people, but a diversity of thoughts and backgrounds and ideas outside of an echo chamber into Wilsonville, and allow there to really be an enriching in our own personal local culture in that way. I grew up here in the Portland area, and my husband and I were marriage equality plaintiffs. In 2014, we stepped out, and right when we were adopting our son Jay in that process, and challenged Oregon's unconstitutional laws that bound my family from existing. And we did that on principle. It wasn't a political issue for us. It was my family has a right to exist issue. And my son has the right to know that his dads are married and that his family is as legitimate as any other family in his classroom or in his community. We adopted our son Jay from Oregon's foster care system. He is a child of color. Many of you might already know who he is. He's in the school system, wonderful kid, thriving in this community, and loves football. And we have a variety of viewpoints, ideas, and belief systems in our family, and all those viewpoints have a platform and they're respected, regardless if they come from a platform that I don't always agree with or I do agree with. Vigorous debate and the ability to hear one another is valued where I come from and in our household, and I hope it will be that way here also. And I think that there are things that we can do to make practical changes to make Wilsonville more inclusive and more equitable. And we can, I hope as we do that, we continue to reach out to the community and have more participation. And I hope that participation comes from people that are brave enough to step in and say something where maybe they don't feel safe to say it, and they haven't been given a safe place to be able to say that. And they might disagree with your opinion, but their voice is still a voice in the community that should be heard, and real hard conversations have to happen sometimes from different perspectives. And so I hope we can do that. I hope we can be big enough and open enough and mature enough to allow those types of things to happen. I know as a gay man, that's just one footnote of my life. That's one footnote of who I am. I'm a father, I'm a nurse, I work in cardiology, do nursing abroad globally. I'm a hunter. I'm an advocate for foster kids. I'm a Trailblazer fan. I'm an uncle. We're all these things that make up this independent being that we all are. We all have that about us. And so I like to know all those things about you and where you come from. And your immutable traits are irrelevant. They don't matter. But I want to know that person. I think us as a council, we want to know who that person is, who that individual is, and welcome you and create a place that's welcoming for you. And I think that's all of our heart. And regardless of all of our varied backgrounds, even on this council and the different electeds, there's other electeds logged in here. I see we also have Christy Thompson from the school board. I saw her on here. Courtney Neron, our state representatives on here. So we have other elected officials engaging in this too in our community. But we all want to hear from you regardless of your varied and independent and special, unique background. We find that exciting and engaging and enriching. And so I hope as we go forward, I agree with everything that the same sentiments from Councillor Ackerval and Linville about some of the ideas that we have. I don't really want to talk. I mean, it's a listening session, so my my opinion on all those different things doesn't matter, and it shouldn't right now. It's here to listen to you. So I appreciate the leadership from Mayor Knapp and Mayor-elect Julie Fitzgerald on this issue, and I hope together as a council we can function as one good solid unit to find some common ground to improve Wilsonville as best we can in this area. I was also encouraged, you hear things that disturb you from people's personal stories, but I was also encouraged by some of the goodness that we heard. And I think that that's a good place to start from, some things that we can address, but we also have a lot of good, wonderful things and experiences that people have had also. So that's encouraging also. So I know we're short on time, so I'm going to stop because I can be long-winded on this council, and I will not take any more time because I think we have a few more to hear from.
Thank you, Councilor West. Appreciate that. Councilor Lehan, would you like to say a couple of words?
I'll try to make it just a couple, but there's not much I can add in terms of thanking everyone for bringing up the many stories and perspectives that we've heard, and perspectives on the things that we need to work on as a community, and we're eager to, I think the community is eager to do that work. But I also would point out, and like Councilor Linville, a little bit about my background. Well, one, as many of you know, I grew up here in Wilsonville back in the olden days, and for 30 years of that, as a kid, it was with Damish Hospital here. And my mother worked there. Most of my friends had parents who worked there. As kids, we were in and out of the mental hospital all the time, running over to see our parents for one thing or another. And we interacted with the patients there. And we knew what was expected of us if patients walked away. And it wasn't, we just called up the front desk and a van would come out and pick them up. There wasn't, it didn't involve police, it didn't involve fear or anything. But the other thing I want to, and I'm proud of Wilsonville for its background in the mental health world, and that we can continue that, especially in the Villebois neighborhood. That was an important part, since that was where Damish was located, of that neighborhood's development, was to provide spaces for mentally ill and developmentally disabled. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is that while I have lived most of my life in Wilsonville, I did go to college in a human development college in Los Angeles that was very diverse, and that was in the 70s. And as you could imagine, in the 70s, in a place like LA, we celebrated it. It wasn't just work. And that's the other thing I would say is, yes, we need to do the work, but if it's only work, I mean, really, that just is going to drag us down. And there is so much to celebrate about different cultures and different ethnicities, different backgrounds. There's so much fun to be had in multicultural community that I don't want us to lose sight of that. And I think several people mentioned that as well. But we had a lot of fun in the 70s.
We don't need to go there tonight.
No. So I just don't want to lose that entirely.
Fun celebration.
Thank you, Councilor Lehan. Appreciate those. Mayor-elect Fitzgerald, would you like to say a couple of words? You're on mute.
Thank you, Mayor Knapp, and all of the councilors who spoke, and also Bill. I had an opportunity to have a short meeting with Bill De La Cruz before this, which I really appreciated. And I'm thinking about it now too, because I'm remembering that this is one of our beginning points. I'm sure we've had many beginning points in Wilsonville, and now we have another beginning point to work on, and I'm really happy for that. And I wanted to thank everybody who has joined us today to listen and speak, and I hope and make comments. And I'm sure a lot of people who are on the call are maybe making notes of things they might be able to do later. And I'm really excited about that. It's a great honor to have been elected mayor of this city. Of course, I'm sure everyone would agree if they were in this position, and I feel privileged to be in this position, and I'm really honored with the opportunity to learn from each of you who we've heard from, and other people who did not join the call, because there's a lot more to learn. And then that's really where I am. It's been a big year of learning. I think we hear that from all the people around us a lot. The death of George Floyd was a terrible thing, and we're still, you know, thinking about it and working on it every day. And it has brought a lot of awareness to some serious problems. And I've heard so many people talk about, let's make sure that this is not just a moment where we're thinking about this, and that we will go forward and do things together. And so everybody talked a little bit about their background. I'll just say briefly, somehow I picked up in my childhood from my parents and maybe neighbors and friends that I just really liked, like a lot of you today, where you can get together and do things together. I don't know, maybe it was the Girl Scouts and it went from there. But I learned a lot from working in the public sector, which is where I work today. And what's joyous about that is being able to hear from people who want to create change and then work together to make that change. And I think we've heard a lot about that today. That's really exciting. And maybe I'll just close by saying, thinking about a couple of the comments that I'm gonna just tuck away as we go forward and learn, because I think we're gonna be developing together a process that works for Wilsonville to make it a place where everybody does feel included and welcome. That's one of the common themes I heard today. That is really exciting, and we heard some very good success stories. We also heard about some difficulties and terrible things that we want to change. And I made a note of you know, being interested in looking at our policies and practices as we go forward, just like the biases that I know I carry and we all carry. We probably have a lot of things built into the way that we do things that are barriers and exclude people, and we don't even know it. So this is a chance for us to have a new beginning and look for some of those barriers and work together through many of the processes people talked about, from as simple as getting together for meals, breaking bread together when that's allowed. We will be able to do that someday. Sharing emails, getting to know each other, and continuing to have opportunities to share the good and the successes and the wonderful outcomes, and also the problems and the structural racism impediment, you know, the racism that is structured into our policies and practices that we may or may not know about, that need to be dismantled and done away with, so that we can have more of these great stories, so that everybody who lives in Wilsonville feels included and can contribute to each other's success. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzgerald. Well, we've had a lot of input tonight, and it is, as has been noted already, only a step. It makes me think about the arc of history of our town, going back to stories that we hear about the Native Americans who were here, and about the people from the outside that came. Oregon has got some very troubling history, along with much of the rest of the country, but I think it is something that we are called upon to face up to. This summer, we have all been completely kind of overcome, I think, by a lot of troubling things at the national level that we have become aware of. There are parallels at the state level, and even this year we've had very disconcerting events arise at the local level that have come to light. And I think we are called as elected representatives to be leaders and to work toward improvement. In my 17 years as an elected official in the city of Wilsonville, I hope and I think from my perspective, which is certainly not universal, but my own narrow set of impressions, I think we have improved things over that period of time. And I hope that we can continue to do that. I think that we're on a continuum where we're called upon to keep pushing in that direction. And it's not like there's any plateau that we suddenly arrive at that says, hey, we got that covered. It's an ongoing process. And I think it's going to be always a continual climb. I know there are troubling threads within our community, and figuring out how to deal with that from the leadership level as well as from the individual level is an ongoing project that we have to be willing to take on. So I'm pleased that we're embarked on this process now. I have a great deal of confidence in Mayor-elect Fitzgerald and her perception, her skills, and her life experiences to lead forward with these processes. So that really is probably what we can do for tonight. Bill, do you have other comments you would like to make, or how are people going to hear what's next, and how are we going to figure that out?
Great. So I'll go ahead and jump in here, and I'll say a few things. So we're going to obviously debrief this whole conversation, and then we'll put together some more opportunities for community engagement from some of the groups that we've already been meeting with, work with all of you to talk through some next steps, and then look at really ramping things up probably as we begin 2021. And so use this as a kind of looking at it as a snapshot, that we got a little insight into what the community is experiencing, and know that there's more. So those will be some of the next steps that we're going to take. The idea of this approach is it's going to be very collaborative, very transparent, and know that we're building this process together. And so it's not like the city manager or you all have a plan and we're just going to go out and implement it and then invite people in. We're really working on this together. And I think that's the way that this work in particular has to go, in terms of engaging everyone in the process of problem solving, because really that's what we're doing. And so so that'll be our next steps, is we will as a team internally debrief it, and then we're talking about engaging the small community group that helped to plan this process in that next step. And we'll also have a transcript of this meeting. And so if there's anyone in the Spanish speaking community that would like a copy of it interpreted, we can go ahead and make that happen. And I'm just going to close with 3 beliefs that I have. One is that leaders set the standard. And I think somebody said that today. And I will just say the standard that you all are setting is exemplary in terms of being willing to do this work, and knowing that there are so many unknowns and so many twists and turns in it, and still being able to sit in it and say, we're going to continue to go forward. This is not a one-off. We really want to take action. So kudos to you for setting this standard. And I know there'll be times when it'll be really challenging, and that's when it's going to be even most important to maintain that leadership role. The other is that you start where you start. So we had 60 people here. I know the Wilsonville community is much bigger than 60 people. And so this is a great start to get that many folks on a Tuesday night in this conversation, and we will work to continue to build that. And the last piece I'll say is what I've learned about this work, whether you call it dismantling systemic racism or being anti-racist or DEI, it's all about practice and not perfection. And so the more opportunities that we have to practice, knowing that none of us will ever be perfect at this, that I make missteps, I say things that impact people, and we just have to give each other grace and have a conversation when those things happen, because you can't heal division with more division. You can only heal it with more love and working from the heart. So I'm just going to end with that, and thank you all for your time. Mayor Knapp, thank you for the time that you've put into this community and all the things that you've accomplished in your tenure as city council person, as mayor, and I'm sure you've done a lot of other things that I don't even know of. So Helen, do you want to say any last things before we go? I think you're on mute.
I have two ways to mute myself and I had used them both. Disculpen, me había puesto en mudo de dos maneras en vez de una sola. Acá vamos a terminar esta conversación, pero de aquí seguiremos con los próximos pasos, pero haremos una transcripción de esta reunión y los que deseen una traducción de esa transcripción al español la pueden solicitar. We will continue with the next steps, but those who want a transcription of this conversation into Spanish can request that. Este ha sido un buen comienzo con 60 personas y buscamos seguir esta conversión. This was a good start with 60 people, and we look forward to following up with this conversation.
Great. Mira, that's it for us. If you're ready
Okay.
to.
I just wanted to add my thank you. I certainly second everything I've heard from our counselors. I very much appreciate the willingness of the members of our community to step forward tonight. I hope that we can continue to have dialogue with you all and that we can bring other people into the conversation. Council, thank you so much for being here and doing this. The city staff that has been instrumental in getting us to this point and will be instrumental in going forward. The others of you who are involved also, this is what it's going to take to move this forward. So if there is broad commitment, we will move forward broadly and we will make progress. And I look forward to seeing that happen.
Great.
Oh, and good evening.
Yes, everyone have a good night. Thank you all.
Buenas noches a todos.